I got into comedy via an evening course. I did a night class in it because I'm too middle class to commit to anything without having some sort of paperwork saying that I can do it. So I needed a certificate. So I did a night class in it, which was really good. Not so much because I learnt loads of stuff, but more that it gave me the confidence to go out and humiliate myself on stage in front of 4 people in a pub for the next 2 years.
I've had a pretty eventful year, I can tell you this. I bought a flat, it's good news. I live in one of those areas that's sort of like quite posh in some bits and quite scuzzy the next street, you know. I think a lot of Britain is like this, quite integrated. It's the sort of place where if you see a white tent on the side of the road, you're not quite sure if it's a crime scene or a farmer's market.
I mean, I was lucky that things happened for me quite quickly, but I still had to spend, 2 or 3 years just driving around Britain trying to make people laugh who couldn't have cared less, and having really tough gigs in front of squaddies and, drunk people and stag nights and just trying really hard to do it. And I think that was a good lesson because it made me realise that above all I love doing stand-up. So even if nothing else worked out, at least I really love just being on stage and trying to write new stuff. So like the TV stuff is great and I love doing it, but it's all about kind of writing and telling jokes. That's what I like doing the most. Before I started stand-up comedy, I worked for various different art galleries. I was an art gallery assistant, which was really cool. But I think I got to the point where I really loved my job, and then I sort of started doing comedy, and it's kind of like being in love with someone and then meeting the love of your life, and you're like, I feel really bad because I really loved my old job, but I just knew that I needed to go and try and do stand-up.
I love it though, people have an amazing attitude to life where I live. Like, I was on the bus the other day, this really old woman got on, it's completely packed, and she went straight up to this guy who was sitting down and said, "How old are you?" And this guy was like, 37. She said, "I'm 84, get up." I was like, holy shit, she just invented human top trumps.
If you want to get into comedy, I only know the way I did it, but I think you just have to be prepared to work your ass off. I don't think it's a quick fix. I mean, some people do it really quickly and that's great, but I think the majority of people need to go out there, you need to write loads of stuff, just keep writing and trying stuff, go and do loads of open mics. It'll be awful, you'll die on stage 100,000 times and you just have to be like really thick-skinned about it, and that's, if you can't hack that then maybe it's not for you, but if you can sort of survive that and you get some enjoyment out of when gigs do well, then you end up kind of chasing the dragon. You're like desperate to get back to that feeling of when your gig did really well. I was really lucky. I got to write a show with my friend Sharon Horgan, who's written Pulling and she's been in loads of other stuff. And we wrote a show together that BBC Three made into a series, which was absolutely amazing, and we got like the most incredible cast. Sharon is the lead in it, who's hilarious, and then we had like Jennifer Saunders, Miranda Richardson, Cole Barrett from the Libertines has a guest appearance in it, Caroline Quentin is in it, loads of people, and it's been the most fun job I've ever had. I just loved every minute of it. It's about a woman who's falsely imprisoned for killing her boss, and when she goes into prison, everybody's lives are much better with her inside, so no one's that keen to get her out. And she meets a host of other criminals inside. She has to deal with that as well as trying to prove her innocence, which means she has to work out who was the real killer of her boss from inside prison. And everybody is incompetent. The show's going to come out in the middle of June, and there are 6 episodes. It's on BBC Three. I'm doing a Soho Theatre show in June as well, and that is my last year's Edinburgh show that I got nominated for a Best Newcomer award for, and so I sort of was going to put it to sleep, and then I thought, you know what, I'll do it one more time. So this is my sort of last weekend of doing it, and it's about when I broke my arm 2 years ago jumping off Worthing Pier in a homemade helicopter. So it's the story of how you can be really stupid and have a metal elbow and then write an Edinburgh show.
So I've had an eventful year, as I said, up on my flat. I broke my arm. I smashed my arm to bits. I've got a metal elbow. Check that out. Look at that. Come on, come closer. Come closer. Look at that. Look at that. Touch it. Go on, touch it. Lick it. Sweet.
Edinburgh was really great because it was my own hour, and so people who came to it, I guess they either read it and sort of were interested in what I was talking about, or they'd seen me before, and that was amazing. Like, to have people for a whole hour just listening to you, because I'd never done anything like it before. And it was nerve-wracking as well, because if you were awful, you were like, well, you're going to have to sit through this or leave, and that's just going to be awful. But I loved doing the hour for that reason, that you sort of you've got time to sort of do jokes that you couldn't maybe do on the circuit or whatever, because you sort of have to deliver a certain amount of jokes quite quickly, and, you know, it's got to be quite punchy, whereas in an Edinburgh show, you've got more time to sort of develop ideas and things, so it's different.
And it turns out there's loads of stuff you rely on having two arms, obviously. My brother used to come round and check on me every day to see if I was all right when I was recovering. And one day he came round the first day and he said, is there anything I can do for you? And I was like, yeah, this is a bit embarrassing, but I'm finding it really hard to tear off loo roll. It's really difficult to tear off loo roll with one arm. Because you don't realise it, but you use that arm to look. Otherwise you're just like... Honestly, my bathroom floor was like an unravelled mummy.
I'm Holly Walsh and you're watching What's Up, What's On?